songs of encouragement.
Oh, so loud, but so crisp.
Okay, let me fix that.
So
Not loud.
It was really loud for a second. Maybe I'm just.
It's on your end,
Dang!
bitch.
Whoa! Friendly stream, okay? PG. All right. Hello, everybody. Just starting. I'm going to do a painting demo. I have John Ribeiro with me, and I got Michael Young. Two really good people. John's going to try to become an Overwatch pro. It's never going to happen, but, you know, I encourage him in his endeavors, his dreams.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
It's just not going to happen, though, but I'll encourage you.
Yeah, it's all right.
I wish you the best of luck, but it's never, ever,
You can do it, John. I
Yeah,
believe
sure.
you.
Yeah, sure. Thanks.
never, ever,
Nah, you can't do it.
ever gonna happen, but good luck. I believe in you.
Thanks, man.
You know, we should start playing StarCraft again, though, for real. I was thinking about it. We should do Archon mode. I want to play that so badly.
It is a lot of fun, but something about it, you know, it's old age.
Whoa, you're not old.
It's old age. It's like chess now, but
What's
Yo,
wrong
what
with
you
chess?
got against chess?
nothing, man.
Yeah, you just
Yeah,
said,
better watch
it's
your
not
tone,
new
bro.
age.
whoa. Dude, you heard it here. Chess is not new age. for anyone who was curious.
Nah, I mean, Overwatch is like a first-person shooter, and I've always been fond of first-person shooters.
Fond. Nice.
Fond.
Yeah, you have been. Our friendship is bound on first-person shooters, to be honest. Remember?
This is true.
Yeah.
This is true. Counter-Strike.
Yeah.
Xbox.
Dude, can you believe we played Counter-Strike on Xbox?
I know,
What kind
man.
of children were we?
I had a blast.
Oh yeah, it was good. But
Yeah,
like
that's
it was like we were playing like Counter-Strike on training wheels, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's one way to put it.
Can't hear you, Michael.
Well, now it's too quiet. Yeah.
What? Oh my.
Don't go super extreme. I said it was loud, but I didn't say like.
It wasn't loud to begin.
Yeah, it's just that one moment where you just started talking super loud. So whatever percentage you did, you went too far.
I overcompensated.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought I'd do a stream today. I've been good about doing at least one or two a week. So today's my one, so it should be good. Last week I don't think I did. I think I might have. I did, but I was like, I had it muted. That's what it was. And also, it couldn't save because I was playing like music in the background. So it was like, hey, this is copyrighted music.
Mm.
And I'm like, that's alright. I don't really care anyway. Because I was kind of just tired and not feeling great. I had a really bad headache.
Yeah.
All last week it was just like crazy bad. You know, I don't use yellow. Nobody paints with yellow. Yellow is an underused color. In fact, it's one of the colors that I saw somewhere said that it is the least favorite color in the world. It's
I
the
love
least-
yellow.
Yeah, right.
No,
I do. I had a character on World of Warcraft that just rocked yellow every time.
What?
I swear the color that you're talking about is like poop green. Not poop green, poop brown.
No, even Poop Brown is picked more. See, you don't know. You know nothing. You know nothing of what you're talking about.
Prove it. Prove it.
Alright. Let's survey. Who in here in the chat, what is your favorite color? Watch,
That's
you'll
like
see.
the opposite of
We'll
what we're
see.
trying to prove.
No, it's going to prove it right now.
No, man. Bad surveys. Bad surveys.
I really
Teal's-
like yellow, but teal is my favorite.
See, there's that. Okay, what about you, Mike?
My favorite color is gray. But
Yeah,
that's not the color.
yeah, that's a color.
Johnny knows. Yellow and green. It's pretty much teal. Green is pretty much teal.
What? Anyway, did anyone say yellow though?
Yeah, Johnny did. Yellow and
Yeah, we're getting some yellows.
Yeah, they're all saying that now. Bunch of liars.
Yellow's my mom's favorite color.
Bunch of liars.
Nick
dude.
said crimson red.
Truth.
If I wouldn't have said anything, everyone would pick clearly different colors. I don't trust any of you. You're just trolling. I don't think I've met anybody, and I believe you though, Mike, because I don't know your mom, but I believe that your mom.
Tweety Bird, man.
Yeah. Whenever we were in school, me and my friend Edgar were like, "Why doesn't anyone use yellow?" And so we just started putting yellow in our paintings, just because we just were like, "Yeah, let's put some yellow in it." And whenever we'd critique each other, we'd be like, "You know what it needs? What? Yellow. Oh, all right." And start putting yellow in our paintings, critiquing each other's paintings by saying, "Oh yeah, I need more yellow." Yeah, I mean, it's just true. It's just true. Okay, true facts.
I really like when you were drawing what the feedback, like from the feedback from the viewers. Like
Oh,
just
yeah.
giving something.
Yeah,
You
I
should
guess
do
so.
again.
Yeah, that was
It's
cool.
cool.
Shut
It's
up.
really entertaining to me.
Whoa!
That's all that matters. Whoa!
You're just really trying to get those words in. You're just saying that so fast. Whoa. Yeah, it's really entertaining to me when you do it. You know, I just talk so much. I just steamroll whatever you were going to say.
I have to.
Like, I just start talking. Like, whenever you start to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just start, getting louder.
Yeah, no.
Like right now.
Just whenever you start to talk. So you just had to say it so fast. In that,
Hey,
like, 5 seconds you had.
Hey, John, how's your day been?
It's good. Man.
Is, I don't think John needs to be talking.
That was a good day. Me and my roommates had a talk about a movie that's coming out. It's called Raw. You guys should check it out, especially AJ.
What's
It's
it
about a vegan / vegetarian who becomes a cannibal.
What the? Seriously?
Why?
But ultimately, it's about a cult, and just how this girl.
With every sentence, the story gets worse and worse.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Dude, all right, so apparently there was a screening, right?
Wait, is this real?
Yeah,
Like
it's
a real event?
movie. And apparently, like,
Wait, hold on. Is this based off of a real event?
oh no,
Oh, okay. Okay,
a
continue.
horror.
Sorry.
It's a horror film.
I see. Okay, go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead.
But the people that were watching this movie, apparently there was like it was like so intense that like 3 people had to get carried out of the movie theater in stretchers because it was so intense. Like
Yeah,
violent.
right.
Yeah, apparently I don't know the truth, but I mean
I doubt that.
because internet. But,
Dude, those stretcher stories. It's all Blair Witch all over again, dude.
but no, I had a
Stretchers, dude.
conversation with my roommates. We just got into religion and cults overall, and we were just like, damn, they
Yeah.
are true roommates.
Well, think, like, what is the scenario where that guy or gal need to be in a stretcher? Like, think about it. Like, just what would be?
I don't know, just in general, man. It's just like, is it gory enough to where somebody hasn't been exposed to what can happen to human body? And it's just like, it's overwhelming to them. They're just like, whoa, I haven't seen enough violent movies, throughout the years to come across something like this. And then they're just like overwhelmed. I mean,
But,
I could
yeah,
actually
what if it was
imagine
like
actually
totally unrelated to the film?
He went in there,
Like,
just did a bunch of coke.
yeah, like, it has nothing to do. It's just like a way for the film to like look more like badass,
Yeah.
but really it was just unrelated.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it
It's
was
a
more than
PR
one
stunt.
screening, but it happened in more than one.
It's just so extreme, like stretchers.
Check it out, AJ. Raw.
No, I believe that I believe that the movie is gruesome, and I believe that it's like intense. I don't doubt that. Just I doubt the stretchers.
Yeah, it's like one of those water cooler stories.
Yeah, I've seen a movie that was so bad, and I just looked away, where I was just like, ugh, there was it's like I saw The Devil, or I Am the Devil, I think it was. It's a Korean film. It's about this guy whose wife gets like murdered like in the most brutalist of ways,
Damn.
by the serial killer.
God damn.
But this guy happens to be like a cop too, right? And so like he basically goes vigilante up in this, and he just murders. Or no, he doesn't murder. He just makes this guy's life, the serial murderer, like the worst ever. Like he finds him, but he doesn't kill him. Like he even like goes in there and beats the crap out of him at one moment, and just like this really brutal like fight scene. He just beats the crap out of him, tortures him, and everything. And the guy's like, "Kill me," you know, and he's like, "Nah, I'm just getting started." And then he just leaves him like beaten and battered, and the guy's like, "What?" And then the serial killer goes like, "It's really I hated the movie." Because it's just so bad. It was just like not like bad movie. It was like in terms of like a movie, I think it was good, but because it was just so gruesome, I just didn't like any of it. Even like the murdering of the wife was just like it's really sad. I was just like, oh man, I don't like this. I don't like this at all.
Did you faint?
I had to be pulled out of the stretcher. I called the hospital. I was like, bring a stretcher. I need it.
No.
And,
I was gonna say, you brought your own stretcher?
Yeah, I brought it just in case. No, so like, yeah, like the movie gets pretty bad, and then there's like, what was really cool about it though, and interesting, was that they were, I mean, in the beginning, like you really hate that serial killer. Like he's a terrible person. Like he does like really terrible things to these young ladies. It's really sad, right? And then, when all this stuff is happening to him, it's just like there's a moment in the movie where it's kind of like you feel like I don't know if I should feel bad for this guy. So you start asking yourself questions like, yeah, if someone was really like this terrible, do they deserve terrible things to happen to them? Because these are also equally as terrible, you know? And I guess I didn't like to have to think about that question because it's just like I just want to watch a movie and enjoy myself. You know, like I like brutal movies. You know, like when I think of Quentin Tarantino, like those movies are really brutal, but they're like fun. You know, but this is just like brutal, not fun. You know, it just makes you like think too much, and you're like, oh man, I feel sad about my life.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's pretty bad. Like the ending of that movie was just like even though, like really bad. It's like it's kind of how I felt about. Have you seen what you call it? Narcos.
Yeah, man.
And Narcos is the same way. Where it's like, and Narcos is good though because it's like it really is like a drama, right? But it's interesting because you know, like Pablo Escobar did those things.
Right. It's the history, like it's a true story. It's the history of what actually happened. Like,
So
I mean, yeah, man. Like me and my girlfriend watch it, and the biggest thing that really like affects me is just like how many like civilians and kids, you know,
jeez, yeah.
they're just like involved in these things just because, you know, they want a good way of life in a sense. But, you know, it's just like the biggest thing was that freaking kid being, or I can't,
Spoilers.
I don't want to explain.
Yeah, I know what scene you're talking about though.
But, you know, it involves a bomb.
Ugh. It's
But,
all bad. It's all bad. But that's the thing too. That's the point. Like I'm making is that like, and at one moment in the show, you're like should I? You start to feel bad for Pablo, but then you're like, why? Why should I feel bad for this guy?
Yeah, no, not at all.
You're like, ugh. Well, they're like, I don't know how far you are into this. Like, how far are you into this show?
I'm about 4 episodes in season 2.
Oh, okay. See, so you haven't gotten to that part,
Uh-huh.
and so it does. Like you'll see what I'm talking about.
Sure.
But even then, I'm just like, nah. You know what? Fuck that guy.
Right.
You know, like he did terrible things. It's
Yeah.
like, and it's but just like you know, I think there was a really interesting like a message or like a line that I saw written like on a Pablo Escobar like documentary. Like the worst thing about Pablo was that he was a human that did monstrous things, right? And that the word "human" in that sentence is like, yeah, he kind of was just a guy that just happened to have too much power.
Sure.
And people treated him like shit, and he just happened to use that power in the worst possible way, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's also
Worst possible way.
it also comes to like the whole country, right? Like,
Yeah.
the country is in a sense at fault because, you know, their government, their security measures, you know, it all became corrupt because there wasn't anything to overrule the fact that this guy is, taking so much money from a product, which is drugs. And, you know, it's just like, how do you overrule this when the government can't even...
Everyone else is also, like, corrupt, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Because he would kill anyone who was not, right? Like, he would murder them.
Yeah, but it's not just about that, threat. It's about the cost of things. Like, the ultimate thing is money in general, and that's what's scary. But damn,
Yeah, it's
That's
crazy. Yeah, it's crazy because he even tried to kill that president, and he didn't get away with it. And that
Yeah.
president ends up using like really terrible tactics as well to take care of Pablo's. And then that in turn
because they're forced to,
but that in turn causes even a worse predicament.
right?
You'll see when you watch the
Yeah.
show. Like it
Sure.
actually gets worse, and you're just like, oh, God dang, this is crazy.
Intense, man.
It's funny because when I was like, I think I mentioned this before, but like when I was in Colombia, I remember the hosts were telling me about it. At the time, I had no idea. I was just like, oh yeah, I remember droid cartels and stuff. They're like,
Yeah.
nah, dude, it was bad, man. And I'm like, oh, it couldn't have been that bad. In my head, I was thinking this, right? I was like, they're like, no, you don't get it. Like, our country is like really like sad about this event, and I'm like, oh man, all right. And I took their word on it for it, but I didn't understand the scope of that until I saw that show. And even like when the show first came out, people were kind of pissed at it because it seemed like it was glorifying Pablo as like this badass like drug dealer. And they're like, like no, dude, he's awful. He like ruined our country, And so I try to consider that too. I'm just like, yeah, that's true statements about things I don't understand, man.
It's intense, man. You can't understand until you're actually living there and being surrounded by that kind of, culture, lifestyle.
Yeah. Anyway,
Separate subjects.
no, that's good show. Yeah, but Raw sounds gross.
Check it out, man. I'm gonna watch it with my roommates. We're gonna have a showcase night.
Ugh. The guy goes. It's like the
First one to
extreme.
go out on a stretcher loses.
It's like the most extreme like movie pitch line. Vegan goes full cannibal. It goes from humane, like
I mean, that's how you make a good story, right?
Yeah, and then the contrast to that, yeah.
Yeah.
Just like what can turn a person to go from like the super humane to like the most despicable part of humanity. I wonder what the subtext of the story. I wonder what the movie's theme is with that as its like opener. Like I'm really curious now.
Apparently, it's called Grave in America, but Raw in because it's a different country's movie, right?
Oh, where was it from originally? Do you know?
Let's see.
Just curious. I'm like really
I think
curious.
it's like looking it up right now.
Anyway, is there any questions? So I can start taking questions, or can, even some suggestions maybe.
Somebody said, says, hey, can anybody tell me what the colored objects are to the left of the layers that you're looking at?
Oh, my actions.
Yeah, I think it's your actions.
Yeah, those are just my actions. They're just in button mode, so I can press it and it works as a button. It's pretty cool.
You made a whole Gumroad on those too, right? How
I
they
did.
work.
I did it. Guilty as charged. Do you know what that's from, Mike?
Guilty as charged.
No. I knew you were too young for it. Do you know what that's from, John? I did it. Guilty as charged.
Say it again.
I did it. Guilty as charged.
I can't remember the name, but
It's
isn't
from
that?
Dave Matthews Band.
Yeah.
Oh, then I don't know.
Yeah, it's old. That's why
I was thinking
It's like real
Urkel.
old. I googled it.
You Googled it, really?
Oh, he cheated.
Yeah, you cheated.
It's funny that you could do that now within 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm impressed.
Yeah, you're not old enough.
Yeah, you're still in high school, so.
You're not old enough to use Google yet.
Wouldn't that be weird if just,
What's Google?
you didn't have you had an age limit to that? Yeah, that would be so weird.
Dude.
Anyway, any other questions?
Somebody said, thanks a lot, AJ. I have cubital tunnel syndrome.
Carpal tunnel?
Cubital.
Maybe I just spelled it wrong.
Yeah, probably carpal tunnel syndrome. In both of my arms from drawing the wrong way, and I started following your diet, and it gets better. It's getting better.
Great.
I was about to lose hope. Smiley face.
Dude, yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's so for anyone who's curious to what this person was talking about, what's her name?
I don't know.
the worst.
I'll have to bring it back.
You're the worst.
I'll have to bring it back.
Well, whoever you are, if you're still here, say it was me.
I got it. Their name is Clever One.
Huh? Clever one? What?
Yeah,
Really?
like H-A and then Clever One.
What? All right.
Yeah, man.
All right. I believe you. So Clever One. Well, as that person was saying, because I switched to a vegan diet about in January, right? And I've been vegan since January, and so I did it mostly for health reasons and stuff like that. And because of that, it really helped me understand what I was putting in my body and all that good stuff. But more importantly, it started because I still started having these headaches that I had before. They went down a lot when I first switched over, but then they came back. And so that made me start thinking that there was some underlying issue, which there is actually. I found out recently. But anywho, one of the things that happened, though, I didn't even expect this to happen, was that like I had like whenever I would paint for long periods of time, my hands would get super tingly.
Yeah, man.
Right? Like super like numb, like real
You
quick.
doing much better now?
I don't get it at all.
What? Sweet.
What?
Sweet.
And so what a lot of that has to do is with the cholesterol that's in the standard American diet. We just have too much of it. And so what carpal tunnel is just the clogging of your arteries in your or the carpal tunnel in your wrist, right? And what really clogs it up is basically cholesterol and like abundance of saturated fats, right? And so what ends up happening is when you switch over, what ends up going on is that because when you're using your wrist often and you're moving it around constantly, then blood flow is constantly going to your hands, right? Mm-hmm. And so then with that blood flow carries all kinds of stuff, including the cholesterol. And so then when you remove it, it gives your body opportunity to clear out what's going on in the clogging of your arteries, right? Including your wrists, right? A good symptom too of heart disease is any kind of artery problem or any kind of clogging of your joints and the vessels in which blood travels. So, for instance, if you have erectile dysfunction, or if you have carpal tunnel, or you have anything that involves your veins and arteries that causes you have a hard time to let blood flow through there, you're probably going to have a higher chance of getting a heart attack later in your life too, which is really scary. So all that stuff just started adding up, and yeah, it's just completely gone. I don't have that problem whatsoever. But
Awesome,
I used to have to
I
like
remember that very much.
stop painting for like 5 minutes and
Put
put
your
my
hand
hand
in the
put my hand in the air so the blood could circulate a little bit better, and then I'd get back to drawing for like 15 minutes, and then I'd put my hand up again for like 5 minutes, and then or not 5 minutes, like a minute or two, and then do it again, rinse and repeat. No, not at all.
It's crazy.
Every now
Yeah,
and then there's some tension, but like it's never bad.
Yeah, I did the vegan diet with you most of the year. A little bit under, but I was probably about, statistically about 80% vegan and like 20% vegetarian. But I never ate meat for the whole year.
That's good.
And then right now, the way I'm approaching it right now is just like, I'm trying to go by year, and I'm listening to people's perspective, like yours, and then a lot of others, and I stopped for the year, and right now I'm just doing a fish diet. I'm gonna try that out for a year. I'm sure you're very much against it.
Well, like for me, on a health aspect of it, it's just not that great.
Uh-huh.
But also on a like ethical aspect, it's just kind of
Sure.
like think about it. Like in about they said that if we keep up our habits, specifically with fishing, in I think 30 years from now, there could be real potential that there's no more fish in the ocean,
Yeah.
and that's bad. Like not because we won't have sushi. It's bad because we will have destroyed the ecosystem in the ocean.
Yeah.
Right? And so it's
See,
like,
it's scary too. Like, I'm scared to make that move in a sense because, right, like, people are watching and stuff, and it's just like, it's our diet, and this is a whole another topic, irrelevant to art, but it's just like, what does make sense? You know what I mean?
Mhm.
What does make sense, and how should I approach it? I continue to hear like, this is good, all meat diet, especially from you, like all meat diet, butter in the coffee, all these different things. I look up to you, of course, and I hear you. But I also look up to like my older brother. I look up to people that have influences in my life and stuff. And the way I'm approaching it now is just like, goddamn, I'm kind of overwhelmed. But what should I do, right? And I feel like, yeah, there is a ethical, change to the environment and everything. But I mean, is there? Like, I believe there is. I'm sure there's like movies that I should watch. There's certain things that I should watch. But like, when it comes to my body, I guess overall, it's just like, I can't really agree with you until I have done my own research. And I think a year is going to make that happen,
Yeah, I hear you.
So
That sounds fair.
I continuously hear that, and I'm just like, yeah, I respect you. I respect your opinion. I respect my other brother's opinion. I respect, so many different people. I continue. It's the same thing as religion. And,
Well,
my approach on that is just like,
let's be clear here, though,
sure.
that there is an epidemic in terms of the animal agriculture. Whatever you eat
I
and how
believe
you
it.
feel about
Scared.
eating,
I'm scared.
like that's fine. Like you're right. Like there's no one's right to tell you what you should do with your own body, right?
Sure.
Same way I feel about like smoking. Like it's clear, like smoking's bad.
Right.
Like nobody debates that. But like, I'm not going to sit there and tell you whether you should smoke or not. Right? Drinking's bad. I'm not going to sit there and tell you whether you should drink or not. But there's definitely a bigger responsibility that I think, because for me it started with health, but now it's very clearly both health and ethical. You know what I mean? It's like I can't go back ever because I know too much about just the environment and how it's like. If I'm really a person that's like, oh man, global warming, get your act together, world, and at the same time contributing to what is clearly one of the biggest factors to global warming and climate change, I feel like that's like what am I doing? I was like clearly a hypocrite if I do that. And so what I've decided was just like, yeah, I'm pretty much not doing it entirely. And here's the thing too, man. Like, Bea, like she was slowly turning over, but then she basically converted entirely. She wants to because she just sees and she understands as well. And one of the things that happens is that whenever she went back to eating meat and dairy a little bit, it just screwed her up. I mean, even like Julian, like I gave him like a little bit of pizza just because it was his birthday and everyone's like eating it, and I felt bad for him, and we didn't really prepare to get him anything there. He felt weird, like he was complaining about his stomach, like the whole end of he stopped swimming because of it, and I'm like, dude, dairy's real, and so.
I mean, diet is real, right? Like overall diet is a real thing, and how it affects. Like, I had a freaking cheese enchilada, and I was just like, it tore me up. I was just like, it's killing me because I can't go out, do things, but it's just like I overate, and I know I did, and I'm punished because of it. My body, especially coming out of like a vegan diet. And there's so much to it too, and we should go back to art, but I mean, Yeah, there's a lot that we should consider before like making this kind of, you know, decision. It's scary. It's scary, you know. It really is, because we're used to our own growth, right? What we've grown up to, and what we are used to, you know, like what our parents. It's a whole, you know, it's offensive to people, in a sense, to change a diet because families.
People get pissed.
Yeah.
So silly.
And you know, what is the true approach to it, right? Like we don't know.
Well, I think it's really easy. Just look into it, research.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, and
That's what I'm
experience for
doing.
yourself.
I'm trying to do, right? But I mean, I'm sure you have so much more to share with me too.
Yeah, I would encourage you to do what you need to do. Because for me, I've got food poisoning probably 4 times in my whole life, and every time it was from fish.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just, and I never really cared because I love fish.
Sure.
Well, I loved with a D at the end of that, but I stopped, you know, because I switched over. But I never cared. I still like ate sushi and stuff. I didn't give a shit. And
Go ahead.
and so I still like, but like every time, like it was always from eating fish. I remember the worst one I had. It was me and Dan Garcia. We were at this sushi restaurant, and then I was just like, "Give me whatever you got," and he just gave me all kinds of like weird fishes I'd never heard from. And then like the next day, I was just destroyed. I could not.
Ultimately, we won't know until, you know, until our technology of communication is becoming stronger and more powerful, which it is. You know, this is the reason why, like, I'm curious about others' opinions. You know, like yours, people. Like, how did you come to learn about, you know?
Oh, just looking online, man.
Right. And it's only growing more and more, right?
Mm-hmm.
And eventually we're just going to become, like you said, like one opinion.
Based off of information.
So
and
are you
facts.
trying to say like it could be kind of like how slavery was in a way? Like I know I'm going to relate to very different things, but like there were people that would go about their days thinking slavery is no big deal.
Sure.
And then all of a sudden there was an opinion like, no, like you shouldn't own people.
Mm-hmm.
And eventually it took a while, but that became like, yeah, duh, like we should know people. So in the future, it could be like, yeah, duh, we should be like more careful about what we eat.
I mean, going back to it, like, is technology the reason or the reason to its knowledge, right? Like, because we started coming up with like radio programs and all that stuff, like technology, in a sense, could have been, I'm sure, was a big achievement in that difference, right?
Yeah, this is true.
But like, what is happening now? I'm just relating it back to, you know, our diet, which is it's a big thing, world thing. But go ahead.
One thing I wish was a little more straightforward was like knowing which products I can trust in or a company that I can trust in. Because even like I've heard AJ would say like, duh, the apples are better for you, right? Like you go into the grocery store and you know what, like they don't have a label. I remember that talk. But then like we have companies like Monsanto and whatnot making those things unsafe too. So at what point do I know, like, for example, here's a quick example. I'm still technically a broke college student, so I'm eating ramen and I know it's like not good.
Right. Sure.
And I saw an article posted the other day about how it's causing all these diseases, and like I saw the article and was like, well, duh, like I know that, but I don't really have any other options. So is there like, I wish there was like a ramen company that could compete with Top Ramen. Maybe it costs a little bit more, but like it was the same kind of solution, but it wasn't super unhealthy.
Mm-hmm.
But that kind of thing isn't easily available, or maybe it doesn't exist yet.
Right.
Yeah, that's a fair argument. I mean, that's why you got to do your own research.
Yeah.
That's it. That's what it comes down to. You know, as great as what people's opinions are, there's a lot of information out there you can just read. You don't have to listen to people's opinions. You can just look at the facts. You know, there was a great study. It was called the China study, where they were like, this is a really interesting situation where they can look at the different parts of China and see there are certain kinds of cancers and diseases that were surfacing, right? And it would be very specific to that region. And they're like, what? It's so bizarre, right? A similar way of thinking of this would be like to look at like America and be like, okay, Southern California, if you live in Southern California, you're going to get more lung cancer. And if you're in Northern California, you're going to get more breast cancer. It's kind of like that. Like there's just more statistically seen cancers in certain regions of China, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so they're like, what? And so they were trying to figure it out. Like, it went from to the environment to the diet to the lifestyle and all that stuff, right? And that's what the China study did. And the China study found it was primarily diet because different places had different kinds of foods, right? And then this is when they discovered that it was different kinds of meat that brought different kinds of cancers and diseases, right? Sure. And so then they were like, oh, well, let's publish this, and so people could look at it, and everyone was floored because it's just the evidence is so great, right? If you look at any westernized countries, the number one thing that starts to surface is overconsumption of meat, and also a high chance of getting all kinds of Western diseases. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And the key word here is overconsumption. Like I have friends who are like, I don't know if I could completely switch over, right? And I'm like, the reality is that I don't think you should, because it's just like, that's a lot to ask somebody. Like, even for myself, it was very challenging, It really is. It still is, right? But I was like, but you should just consider like moderating it, because if you like, a lot of the arguments are, the primate versions of us used to eat it all the time. It's like, no, dude, nah. Like you killed a wild ox. You didn't like refrigerate it and put it in Ziploc bags for like weeks. You know what I mean? Like it's like it was a very rare occurrence for you to destroy or kill an animal and then eat it. And then when you did, you had to feed like not just you but like several other people. You know what I mean? It was an event, like a lot of tribes put rituals behind it because it was like a big deal, and where we have modern technology, like John was saying, like that allows us to transport it easier, allows us to refrigerate it easier, allows it to sterilize it easier, because the invention of cooking, if we didn't have that, we couldn't really eat meat the way that we do now at all. Right? It's just truth. Now, there's nothing wrong with like eating it in moderation. And especially like fish, because fish we can actually eat raw, right? Fish is like, but again, there's a high probability of getting food poisoning, and most of that has to do with actually the chemicals that are in the ocean, right? Yeah. It's the opposite of what you might think. It's because of how we're polluting our oceans with our trash and our oils.
Bacteria, right?
Yeah, well, it's just like there's mercury poisoning, for instance, is a real deal because these animals are eating it in an abundance. I mean, think about it back in the day when there wasn't like pollution and oil rigs out in the middle ocean, digging for oil, right? If you fished, you got a fish, and that fish will most likely just, a fish. There's nothing wrong with it. It wasn't mutated or wasn't like, modified because of the environment that humans put it in. So it's just like a collection of our really mismanagement and irresponsibility is just like biting us back, like it's biting us in the face, And so, like, even like what Mike was saying, like, you can't even trust fruits and vegetables, right? Because even like the people who do their insecticides, right? That kind of stuff. Like, they call it the deadly 8, I think, what it was, which is in the fruits and vegetables aisle, because there's like fruits and vegetables that are very thin-skinned. So then, like, pesticides are more easier to soak into the actual thing, the fruit, and it's like that's terrifying. So it's like there's nothing, right? Like it's like, other than if you go straight to the farm, organic, it's probably the most purest of foods you can probably get. And a lot of like hardcore vegans are like that, right? They like totally only get like organic. They only use wooden spoons and wooden bowls and plates, right? All these kinds of things that like avoid chemicals. And that's like really, that's one thing to kind of like avoid meat and dairy in general. It's another thing to even go to the next step of like buying products that are just completely like you only can find in the most abstract and more obscure stores. But that's getting easier and easier to do because of the internet, right? Because you can do all this stuff online now. You don't have to go to like some sort of weird part of your city to find a certain type of food or product, right? And yeah, you bet your ass that the meat and dairy industry is not going out with a fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like they're gonna make scientists and find scientists are gonna say what they want them to say, right? And so you have to look at the peer-reviewed ones, like the ones that are reviewed by many others than just one person, because it's like that's not how science works, man.
Sure.
Right? Like if you look at like a lot of like here's a good tip for anyone who's like getting information. If you got it from like the Huffington Post, I don't know if it's reliable. I'm not saying that the Huffington Post is like some really awful website. It's just that they have an agenda. You know, they're like on one hand they're talking about perhaps why your diet is good or bad for you, whatever the diet they're promoting or not promoting, right? And then on the next page they're like 10 hottest guys. You know, it's like come on. You know, it's not going to be the reliable source. Some of these websites are even just clickbait, you know, with the titles. Like I remember reading a website that was just like, or a thing that was like, hot Cheetos are good for you. It's just like, what? You know, and they know they're catering to that one person or selected people that are like really want that to be true. You know, and they're like, oh, dude, it's great. Like for instance, I fell for the whole shotgun coffee, right? Like where you just put like butter and coconut oil in your coffee. And I was like, oh, that makes sense.
What?
And then I did it, and I was like, this is awful. I feel awful.
Butter?
Yeah, because the argument was that, you know, if you have a lot of fat, if you have a lot of fat, like it's good for you, right, to have like fat in abundance because it's a slow burning fuel source, right? So people who like the video that I watched is like the people who work a lot, it's going to be like work at a desk a lot. It'll be good for them because they're not moving around, right? And he's just like, you know, carbs are good because if you're really active and you're moving around and you're running around and stuff like that, right? So I was like, oh, I don't move that much, so I should do this. And it didn't feel too great. And I think like in the beginning is the placebo effect, right? Where you feel like, oh yeah, this is great. And I had friends who did like the fat only diet, right? Like where they're like, that's the only thing that they did. And then like literally like months later, like because they're not getting their carbs, like they switch, right? And they go hard, and they go super hard. And then they gain not only all the weight that they lost, they gain like twice as much, you know? Because like our body's main source of energy is actual carbohydrates.
Sure.
It just is. Like our brain uses glucose. Glucose is sugar. Sugar isn't found in carbs, right? And so, I mean, if there's Jonah Hill, he's one of the most popular examples of this, a celebrity, because he did the low carb, high fat diet, and he lost a lot of weight, and then he gained it all back, like literally like months after, you know? And it's because your body just can't stand it for too long, because it's making you lose weight because you are literally starving yourself of the nutrients that you actually need, right?
Yeah.
And so your body is like, well, yeah, we got to burn the fat that's there, but then eventually there's nothing left, and it's going to be like, well, let's make a choice, you know, and it starts making you do pretty bad stuff. Where high carb diets are the reason why they're really bad is because you also are eating diets that has fats in it too, right? You're getting double supplements of your nutrients. Now, if you're in survival mode, right, like if you're living in the wilderness, right, and you wanted, like, you were starving, then of course you're going to, like, eat whatever you can, you know? But the problem is that we have too much of everything, like, including, like, carbohydrate-dense foods, you know? Mm-hmm. And so you have foods that are heavy in carbs, heavy on fat, and anything, like, if you look at, like, a McDonald's sandwich, for instance, it's both heavy on carbs and fat. Lots of sugar, lots of fat. Because fat, sugar, and salt are the things that our tongues love to taste, okay? Right? Think about anything that you really love to eat. It either has a lot of salt in it, like ramen, either has a lot of fat in it, like bacon and salt, or has a lot of sugar in it, like cupcakes or something like that. Right? Like, because our tongues are like, what? This is so nutrient, you know? Because it's like our physiology is still immature, you know? It's still hasn't had the time to evolve to eat the kinds of foods that we had because we get it so quickly, you know? Our technology has clearly evolved or moved much faster than our physiology. That's just a fact. You know what I mean? Like in 30 years from now, think about what kinds of stuff we're going to be into. And I'm not even talking about like food now. I'm talking about just like technology. Like think about 30 years from now. It's even hard to imagine what it could be, right? And we're going to be, you, me, and John are probably going to be around to see that and be like, dude, remember back when we used to use limbs? remember when we used to actually eat food?
Man.
Yo, remember when Deus Ex wasn't real?
Yeah, remember when we actually had to eat food?
Wait,
Yeah.
have you guys seen any recent like South Parks?
Oh no! Don't tell me anything. Don't tell me nothing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I remember. I know that they just started, so I'm gonna watch that. Actually, probably
All
right
right.
after this, I'm gonna go watch it.
Yeah, you son of a bitch.
You'll know what I mean.
Okay. Yeah, but anywho, my point is that like that's the problem of our epidemic. That's the reason why we're having a lot of issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah, sure.
You know,
It all goes back to like own research and adding your own opinion, right? So I mean, there's so much that we should continue to talk about this whole thing because it's a matter of epic proportions.
Yeah, but my biggest thing to anybody who's listening to this and taking any of this seriously, I would just say reduce your intake, because aside from the health aspects of it, if you don't really care about that, which some people just don't, you know what I mean? And that's fine. Like I said, it's like if you smoke, you smoke. If you drink, you drink. You know, I drink. It's a matter of, then the question is, like, where do you stand on what you think you could do to help mitigate this environment problem? Because that's a problem that we all have to deal with eventually.
Yeah. Add your own research to the collective, right?
Yeah, and it's just like this. Like you don't have to take my word on this type of stuff either. You just look at what's happening, and a lot of scientists. There's a really good podcast with Neil deGrasse Tyson, where he was like, because he loves himself some steak, right? And even he was just like being confronted by this. The scientist was just tough. Like he's like, well, it is not entirely the food, right? Like we hear this argument, but it's all the other things, right? And even the environmental specialist is just like, no, it's definitely a big problem. The food is also, and she's trying to dodge it, is like saying like, it's not one, it's not the only one. It's like it's not just the one thing. It's like obviously a contributing factor of many different things. But she wasn't like, because he was trying to, I guess, because even him, he has a bias, and I really respect myself, Neil deGrasse, right?
Mm-hmm.
But even he, it's crazy, the bias that you have. Like once it's like, you know what I mean? Like once you are confronted with something that you just don't want to potentially admit to be true.
Sure.
Right? Because it might change your habits. Like this is just how this is human nature. And this is why we're in this problem in the first place. Is that we're not able to recognize potentially what we're doing. Humans are unfortunately a very short-sighted species. Like we won't do nothing about it until the world starts capsizing on us. And there are people who are already making really good strides. Like Tesla, like Elon Musk is doing. He's trying to do that whole getting electric going. Mm-hmm. But even with that, it's like it's just not enough. But it's a good start, right? At least people are trying, and they have their solutions. I mean, my most beloved director, who's also an environmentalist, is a vegan, and it's James Cameron, right? Because he's not clueless to the facts of it, and I think he does it for ethical reasons. I don't think he does it at all for health reasons.
Right.
I think he does it because he knows he's seen like the bottom of the ocean, and he's like, I need to save this planet. What I got to do, and so I'm just saying.
It's real deep, man. It's real deep.
Think about it, guys. Just moderate. You're gonna do your part if you take it.
Sure, man. And the approach that every one of us that wants to change the world, we have to approach it carefully.
Yeah, I think
we don't want to offend anybody.
I think the number one solution that's going to happen is that there's going to just be a really good alternative to meat. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
there's going to be something that just tastes just like whatever you like, fish, bacon, whatever. But it's science. And then I think that will be probably the biggest turning point, Really? Because it still might be unhealthy for you, but it'll be easier to make. And
Yeah.
it would be...
It's not offensive to the planet.
Yeah, like you're not murdering like a mass amount of animals. And
Let's go
destroying
to
huge
questions towards the
ecosystems.
art.
Yeah, man, let's do it.
Um,
Shut up, Veggie Tales.
just going through it. Right. Somebody said, give us a shout out. We're a bunch of guys listening in from Scotland.
Oh, cool. Who are they? What's their names? I'll shout
I
out.
don't know. I don't fucking know.
That's like the whole point.
You read it. And didn't care
I only
to.
capture their text, not their names.
No, you didn't learn from
Well,
the first
shout out to
Yeah,
those
I
guys.
failed. Hey, shout out from
Scotland guys. I'm
Scotland.
gonna call them. I'm
I
gonna
wanna
call
go
them
there one day.
McScotty is the first guy's name, and then Miss
You guys are here, so-
Scotland is the
Put your
second
names
guy's
here.
name,
Say it.
and then Miss Scott Scotts is the other guy. I got him. I think those are their names. I'm pretty sure those are their names.
Next one says, have you ever considered watching Stranger Things? I'm going to buy that guy.
What?
I'm going to be that guy that asks.
Oh, okay. I was like, I'm gonna buy that guy. I was like, what does that mean?
I was wrong.
Yeah, I love that show. It's a good show.
I enjoyed it. It was great.
It was good. Very nostalgic. I like adventure, like movies, like real adventure movies like that,
Yeah.
or shows. I mean, and it's really good. Or movies and shows. I guess there's not too many shows like that. Stranger
like the
Things is like
concept.
the only kind that I could think of actually. It's like Goonies,
Yeah.
but with like Poltergeist type
Movies
elements.
with kids, man. It's the way to go.
Wait,
Goonies.
child pornography? Got him. We got him,
down.
guys.
Calm down.
We
Why don't
got
you take
him.
a seat? Why don't you take a seat right over there?
We got him, sir.
Next
So,
question says, AJ,
what are you
how-
gonna do with that
how do we
bag?
become
The
smooth?
toys.
How do we become smooth? And how do we sing?
It's funny. You're like, let's go to the art questions, and so far none of them have been art questions. I don't know. I'm not that great of a singer.
Yeah, you're not.
All right. I'm not crying. You're crying. You're
So
crying.
how do you be smooth? Good question.
I don't know.
Get serious.
I don't know how to be smooth.
All right. Next question says, how can I understand my values better while painting in color?
Oh, that's a art question.
Yeah.
So the best way to do this is to really practice your values and colors, right? And one way you can really do that is just look at the color and guess what you think the value is, and then paint the value down next to that color, and then turn off the colors by using a color layer and putting it in black or white, which pretty much eliminates all color. And then you'll see the value that you thought it was on the right or left, whatever, and then you'll see the real value of it once you take the color away. And that's a really good trick. I'm sorry, not a trick, but that's a really good way to practice your values. Like, so you can see, or values in color, so you can see them. For instance, like this blue is really competing against the background, and I know that. And so I'm trying to think of ways to solve that, but I've been focused more on the yellow stuff because it's fun. And to be honest, it might be alright. One of the things I can combat it with is just painting the background a different color, you know? And that would help, but that's cheating. It's not cheating, but it's just, I don't want to do that. I think there might be a better way.
Rim light?
No, I don't want to do that either. It's similar to what the earlier problem, cheating. I think it's just, I might just put the yellow on his head. That might be good. Might be good.
This is more of a statement, but it says, based on genetic markers of every human being, certain divisions of eatable content can be healthy and unhealthy for you. Now, on the aspect of each region, as Anthony said, America is one of the most very unhealthy regions in the world, and it's not due to consumption, it's based on control. Most people usually eat themselves full in this region, and they do not have a active lifestyle. I enjoy their approach in China and also in part of Mediterranean diets. But again, it benefits those that have access and control. But hey, I'm just a black guy.
So check it out. So based off of that statement, he's saying that some people are able to eat or eat certain kinds of foods, and that's absolutely true.
Sure.
That's how evolution works.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like evolution is based off of the idea that our ancestors had certain problems, and the ones that are able to survive those problems kept going. Right.
Mm-hmm.
The whole point is that there's a very clear issue in terms of health, like across the board, is once you increase not just consumption of eating, because you can look at countries like Japan, who ate tons of fish and tons of rice. You know, like you see these people, like you see these like little tiny Japanese girls eating like literally like bowls full of rice, right? And that's that's carbs all day. But that's because carbs are actually one of the things that we can really digest. We can get in and out of our body really easily. You know, it's just that once we started introducing more meat, like pork, like there's a really cool video. I think it's like a BuzzFeed video where these like they grabbed like a random assortment of Korean people eating American barbecue, and it's like to your point, yes, proportions is bad, right? But it's like all meat and dipped in like sugar juice.
Yeah, man.
You know, it's like it's not just the consumption part. Of course, if you eat a lot of anything, you're gonna start gaining weight, right? But like the amount of vegetables and fruits and even carb-loaded foods like potatoes and rice, like you can't argue that those are going to be a little bit harder to get fat on than like just 2 strips of bacon. You know what I mean? There's like no argument. Like you can eat like a whole bowl, like a bowl, like I don't know, like it's a huge cereal bowl full of kale, and if you switch that kale with any kind of meat product, it is like quadrupled in terms of density of its calorie. So he's right to the point that like, you know, you go to McDonald's, right? You get like a Big Mac. It's like it's tiny, but it's so calorically dense. It's like 500 or 600 calories if you just only had the meat in the bun, you know. But with all this like the ketchup and the sauce and all the other stuff, it can get to 1,000 calories just that small little burger, right?
Sure. Well, think about the
Delicious
texture
calories.
going into your body,
Yeah.
right? It's like,
And it's not filling. That's the
overall.
thing too. It's not filling, right? And so then, like, I mean, you can think about it like this too. Remember when we used to eat Korean barbecue all the time, and we would only eat the meat and we'd feel terrible afterwards, right? And then when we switched to eating more of like the sides, which was the vegetables and the rice,
Sure.
we would feel fine. Like we would eat, like we would only order 1, maybe 2, if there's 3 of us, maybe 2 dishes of the meat, right?
Yeah.
But then because before we'd order like 6 or 7, and that'd be like all we would eat, and then we'd feel terrible, and then we couldn't like move, and we weren't able to get any work done, right? And then
It's horrible, but we thought it was so good.
yeah, I mean it's like, don't get me wrong, like it's delicious.
It's ridiculous.
I wasn't long ago. I had the tastes. I don't forget. Like I know the complaint. That's the problem. You know when someone's addicted if they really truly cannot abandon it. You know, like if you really don't think that it's like it's how much you eat, then try like seriously go a week without any meat. I actually don't recommend this for anybody, but try and you'll see. You'll start having meat dreams.
Sure.
Right? You'll be like, oh. You start seeing bacon like swimming in a pool of butter, and you're just like, I want to live in that. I want to live in it.
All right, next question.
Yeah.
Art related says, how did you study anatomy? I know there's a very medical approach and a
Sure.
looser, more artistic approach, but obviously they're both complex enough to require a lot of intense study. Is the best way to just draw and reproduce medical illustrations, and you just do it over and over for years and eventually it sticks? Haha, I know the most pros still study it constantly. The names I hear the most are Bridgman, Loomis, Vanderpool, and Hampton. Would you suggest reproducing their drawings? I asked because I took Scott Eaton's workshop a while back, but sadly I've forgotten most of what I learned. So I'm just curious if you have any suggestion for how to approach it in a productive way.
Yeah, so this is a good question because it leads to a good answer. And the answer is yes to everything you said. You know, there's a really cool, there's a really great guy that I listened to, it's Gary Vee. And I saw a video just actually this morning, which he summed it up really great, which was that, like, the same person was asking, Lou, how do I go about marketing and doing all this stuff? He's like, should I do this? And then Gary's like, yes. He's like, well, have you thought, like, what about this? And he's like, yeah. What about this? Totally. He's like, well, what about this? He's like, yes. And the guy was just kind of like, oh, so just pretty much do something. He's like, yes. He's like, no matter, whatever your questions are, the answer is yes. You know? He's like, the problem is that you're just not doing it. You know, it's work. Work is it what it is. And so, like, if you were to ask yourself this question, like, that I'm going to throw at you, which is, how much do you actually study and practice anatomy, and then correlate that to how good you think you are, or how good you actually are at anatomy, and the answer will be very obvious, isn't it? Right? Because obviously, if you study and practice anatomy, however you do it, whether it's the medical or just a straight up just copy paste and learn from the master's approach, if you do it all the time, right, then you're going to get good at it, regardless. But if you don't do it at all, or barely ever, because you're afraid, this is not the right way of doing it, then you're doing it the wrong way, which is not doing it at all. You know, in fact, this is one of the biggest things that I teach my students in my classes, and I like, even if I say it to you guys now, like they will forget. Like, it's just crazy how often people forget this very simple concept, and I prove it to them almost every class with their specific work. Sometimes they're very specifically different in terms of what they're struggling with at that time, but it's almost always very clear to me, you know, what it is. You know, like, if I were to tell you how to do 100 push-ups and a variety of them, and how it's going to make you stronger at your push-ups and how it's going to make you better at this certain type of exercise, you can believe me, right? And you maybe I'll have the results. And especially if I just told you if you do 100 push-ups a day, you're going to get stronger chest. That's arguably, like, no debate against that, right? But if you don't do any push-ups, then that advice means nothing to you, does it? Like, what's the point of even telling you, right? So that's like the whole kind of like the philosophical aspect of thinking of it, is that just do something. You're going to make mistakes, but those mistakes are also productive. You understand? Like, that is also moving in the right direction. Okay? Because every time you make a mistake, you know what not to do. Right? That's a positive reinforced thing. So anyways, now some advice on what I did. I spent like a good week just doing anatomy, and I filled up like 2 sketchbooks full of anatomy. And then from there I had like such a stronger, profound sense of anatomy ever since that day. I wasn't like the master of all anatomy at the time, but I just learned a lot about it. And I think it's really important to memorize names of at least the major muscles and bones. I think it's also important to just understand general proportions. But you don't have to have a medical understanding of it, especially if you're just trying to be like a character concept artist, because most of the time your characters aren't going to be naked. You know? You won't need to actually have that kind of level of anatomy knowledge. And plus, people like Photobash and use 3D nowadays too. So anatomy knowledge might need to just be surface based, just so you can spot bad anatomy versus just not knowing at all and then using like a model or a photo in the most incorrect way, right? Because you don't understand basic anatomy, so you're just like putting it in because, oh yeah, this is an arm, and you just put it in just however you want. So I think just having a surface understanding of anatomy is probably enough for nowadays, because photo bashing and 3D is a thing. You know, you don't really need to have like 100% epic anatomy. But if you did, the benefit of it is that you don't have to ever go online. You could just stay in your painting the whole time. You know? But it's a tug of war. Like, do you search online for reference all the time for every image you do, or do you study countless amounts of hours so you don't have to go online out very often? Either way, it's going to spend time and money or effort, right? There's just never going to be the easiest way. It's just whatever way you prefer. Some people prefer to want to paint everything. Other people just want to make good designs, and there's nothing wrong with either.
Cool. Cool.
Cool.
Tight.
Tight.
Next one says, could you quickly demo how you think of the hip/pelvis area when illustrating it out? For some reason, I can't figure out a good basic shape to define it, particularly in 3/4 view. The box method isn't very helpful. Any help with this?
I think it's just you just need to do more practice. Because I'm probably going to do the box method, and it's just kind of like the question I just answered. It's a matter of how much have you done it. I mean, if you really think about it, you might realize you didn't do much, and that's fine. Like, you're not going to be awesome at everything you just start doing, right? So if you have a hard time with the hips, I'd challenge you to spend like a month just focusing on that area alone. You know, I would challenge you, and then I would be shocked. I would be shocked if it's still a tremendous mystery. Maybe you won't be like, again, you won't be the grandmaster at it, but you absolutely will should understand it better than you did, and that will prove to you that it has more to do with just grinding it out, understanding the principles of it, versus just kind of like me doing a demo for you that will solve your problem. Because the way that I see it is like the way that my teacher showed it to me, and I just practiced it a lot, which is like a bucket. See a bucket, and outside of the bucket is like the femur coming out there. And that's how I see it. And then I just put muscles, like I put like the abdomens, then I put the obliques like right where they need to be, and then like where the quadricep starts to come in, right? But like this, I don't think any of this will help you in terms of your underlying issue. But what I think can help you is to think of it even more simply, like just. Because if it's too complicated for you right now, then don't think of it like at the more extreme levels. Just like I said, practice for like a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, maybe a month, a year, your anatomy, and pick specific body parts and just focus on them for a while, and then move on to another one. Hold on, I'm parched. I'm going to drink real quick. But what I think helped me was just to slow down and take it simple. Like a much more simple approach, and I look at it as like the pillow. I think it's just a pillow or the bean bag, or basically this approach where if you look at the upper torso and the lower torso, it's just like this giant like pillow / bean bag that can just twist and turn. That made it a lot easier for me to kind of manage. Also, like looking at the ribs and the lower torso. And the mid-torso, like saying that there is 3 parts, lengthening the torso in that way helped a lot. What else helped me a lot? Just understanding the skeleton was a big deal. Just the skeleton alone. But yeah, I mean, like I said, the underlying problem is probably more important to try to solve, which is this idea that you think like the struggle is real, and that you should be okay with that. Like, be okay with the struggle being real, and just practice until you understand it, until you see it yourself. Because for me, like even when someone showed me the pillow method, that took a while, and even there's times where someone would show me a specific method that they said, "Oh, this is like the bee's knees," but at the time I didn't understand it because I wasn't ready for it. You know what I mean? It's like if we were going back to the working out analogy, it's like. I wouldn't want somebody to all of a sudden be a sprinter if they didn't even know how to run. You know? Like you have to learn how to run, / walk. Right? And so those types of those types of advice that was given to a sprinter will go over the head of like a novice, right? You know, like if we were looking at like something like a video game, for instance, there's a really cool kind of like video series that I was watching where the guys were talking about how the meta of the meta, how like people are like arguing about, oh, you shouldn't play that character class because it's a new move, but it's like, oh, that's only relevant to like the pro level, right? Not like the bronze silver level, where people can play a Bastion and just wipe a whole team by themselves. Like we still like Bastions is like a big deal for even me and my crew whenever we play, right? But like at the pro level, it's just not. So it's like Bastion's just like silly. But that means like that person can play like epic Genjis and epic McCrees that like never miss. They shoot 6 out of their 6 shots. You know what I mean? Like I when I shoot my McCree, like I get like maybe 1 out of the 6 shots that I intended. You know what I mean? It's just like it's clear. It's clear like that. It's you're not ready for that type of advice until you're at that level, right? That meta doesn't apply to you. That's why whenever we play, I'm just usually just like, play whoever you're good with, because even if like, oh, we need an extra tank or whatever, it's like we might actually do better if that person just plays a character they feel comfortable with than them just filling a role that they don't really know how to play very well, right?
Sure.
Just for the sake of that's the meta, right?
Yeah.
And so it's like same kind of correlation to like the art stuff. Like I can give you certain advice, but you know what level you're at, so you need to kind of find, and then that advice I might have given you might work now for you, or maybe a year from now. Then the pill thing, now it makes sense, So I would hold on to the fact that like just keep going, keep grinding until something starts to make sense. Yeah.
Tight.
All right. I'm gonna take a few more questions, or I can just do lightning round if we have.
Yeah, there's 3 more questions.
Yeah, lightning round then.
Okay. Kaylin just sent another one. Oh, just kidding, Kaylin.
It's a statement.
It is a statement. There's no question mark. Alright. This one says, do you think there's a noticeable difference between learning the foundations self-taught versus school? I'm wondering if it might be better to learn foundation stuff, atelier style, with lots of studies from life and feel like I'm missing out on something by not having that experience. What do you think?
Yeah, so there's a common problem with that thinking that I like to try to get people to wrap their mind around, which is stop thinking about what you're missing out on. Just go. Just start doing stuff. Don't worry about what you think you're missing out on. Because the only real thing that you're missing out on is if you're not painting. If you're painting every day and you're working on it and you're trying to get better and you are getting better, then don't worry about whether you should do this or that, because you're already doing it. You're already improving. You're already getting better. Like what's the argument? Because like if you feel like you should do more self-taught studies, then just do it. Don't wait for someone like me to give you permission. Right? Just do it. Just do it, because you're going to be a different kind of artist than me anyway, based off of your choices and your decisions. The real difference between like if you go to like an academic school and self-taught is that if you go to a really good school, like if you go to like Brainstorm or the Art Center, they do one thing really well. They make you draw a lot, and they have standards. And then they have accountability, right? So that way, like when you don't submit, they can embarrass you in front of the class, or you feel embarrassed by your own progress or whatever. Maybe they don't embarrass you, but you yourself comparatively will, right? Or feel like you let your teacher down, or whatever the case may be, right? So that's why schools work in the sense of like, like the idea of self-taught versus not self-taught, right? But the idea is it's not self-taught. I don't think self-taught is a good word to use for like learning on your own, because I think you go to a school, you could still learn on your own. You could still quote unquote be self-taught. You know what I mean? Like you can listen to your instructors and they give you all this advice. And you can be like, nah, I think there might be some difference to this, And I encourage that kind of thinking too, right?
I had that experience.
Or you can be like, I agree, but like, is there more? And then you go beyond what the teacher asks of you, right? That to me is still self-taught. What people really are saying about self-taught is self-discipline, right? Like, can I just do this stuff without anyone telling me to do it? And I'd be hard-pressed if you have a hard time, like, doing something without someone telling you to do it, then consider maybe something that you don't actually like to do, right? And if it is something that you like to do, but you know it's something else, like something like, because of your own bad habits, then just start working on your bad habits. And then you can be one of those people that earned their ability to be self-disciplined, right? Not everybody is like awesome self-disciplined, like not even I, right? But if you sit there and train for it, you can train yourself to be really, really good about doing a lot of work and doing a lot of studies and practicing, you know what I mean? And it doesn't have to be crazy epic either. You don't have to. You can go at your own pace. That's the benefit of just doing it on your own. You can go at your own pace, take your time until things look good and right, and then just go for it. Right? Instead of just like, should I go to school or should I not? Like, yeah, go to school, don't go to school. Do whatever makes you feel like it's the right step. Because even if you're wrong, that's teaching you something. Okay? Because I went to AI and that was a mistake, but I learned a lot, and that in a way guided me to become the artist and teacher that I am today. Right? If I had a beautiful school experience, maybe I would have never been a teacher. Right? But since it was such a bad experience, I felt like there needs to be better education out there. So like it is just like a product of what happens to you, right? I remember I had a good talk with my friend yesterday at my son's birthday party. We were talking about stuff like that, like about raising our kids, and it's like, I have this son that's just like, I know he's screwing up, but it's like it's hard for me to tell him because like at the same time he needs to screw up, he needs to do it on his own. He needs to learn his own lessons, and it's really hard because I'm like, dude, just trust me on this, right? It's real hard, but like I get it. Like no one was like that for me, I had to become 23 years old before I realized I was screwing up. You know what I mean? And that might happen for him. And if it does, it doesn't mean that it's too late for him because it wasn't necessarily too late for me, right? And so it's like, I'm just kind of like, I just know better. I have that hindsight, and this is frustrating. Like I know his future already, and I'm trying to show it to him, and he's like, nah. Whenever people ask me like the kind of questions like, hey, what would you tell the past version of yourself, right? What kind of advice would you give that person? And it's like, I look at the situation with my son, it's like, like I don't think I can. Even if I could go back in time and give myself advice, I don't think I would have even listened to it. Because I wasn't in that mindset at that time to take that kind of stuff. I just wanted to drink, play guitar, hang out with friends all the time. I didn't care about life.
Yeah, man.
Michael,
right.
Wait, hold on. Michael said he had experience. I actually want to hear about it.
Let's do it.
Soup.
Oh, what?
Soup.
Oh yeah, I was just commenting on how you said how in college there could be students that like go to class and their instructors tell them how to do certain things, and you're like, nah, man, I think I know a better way. And then you go online and you like find better education. That was like my whole college experience. I remember I took a digital painting class from an instructor who did not one demo in Photoshop. This guy would take pictures of your work with his cell phone and then lose the work, and then you fail the class. I took that class 3 times. That was the most frustrating experience. Yeah. And my family was so close to suing the school. I'm not going to get into it.
Right.
But point being, he was teaching the students to do like terrible, terrible things that I've heard online that you shouldn't do in Photoshop. And then I remember telling the students like, no, man, there's a better way. Like I would go around and like try to tell them like, oh, there's this hotkey for this thing and all that stuff. Things I learned from like people like you. And then I would also point them in your guys' direction. But yeah, I can't really go and say like I'm self-taught really, like, because I'm not amazing yet, but I'm not trying to be amazing yet.
That's what I was trying to say though too, is that I don't believe that there's like self-taught is the act of choosing to go to school. Like no one's learning for you is what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah.
Like you have to still learn it. So the idea, I think it's better to say self-discipline. I think that makes more sense than self-taught.
I agree.
Self-taught implies a different kind of idea that I don't think actually exists. I think
makes sense.
All of it is being self-taught.
I think I'd like to say I'm the type of person, particularly that's like patient and like I have no doubt in my own success, if that makes any sense.
Yeah.
So
patience,
I'm not in a rush to be like, I need a job tomorrow. But like
good.
at the same time, I want to be a good artist. And I'm going to keep working at it. But I'm going to try to have fun doing it. You know, I want to make studying fun.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
man.
good.
Anyway,
That's why you're a
that's me.
loser now.
Oh,
And in the
boy.
future,
Oh,
you're gonna
boy.
be better.
Okay, John.
Just kidding. All right. So there's like 4 more quick questions.
All right, I'll answer them for
Zap
real
it
quick.
up.
No, I needed to head out too, so I'll answer them for real quick this time. My bad.
Let's do it.
Twizzler tongues. John knows me. I'm just gonna go. See you guys.
What things should you make sure to practice if you want to become a character concept artist?
Character design and anatomy.
Tight. Here's a personal problem that I'm sure a lot of people experience. Right now, I'm a full-time graphic designer and doing freelance graphic design when I need to. I started drawing before going into graphic design, but I didn't manage to excel a lot at drawing for the last 6 years. The thing is that now I'm drawing from time to time, but it's as slow as hell progress. The question is how to study smart, or how to best use the few hours a day that I have,
Let's
sometimes
see.
few a week. It's really depressing since I really want to get better at drawing and be able to freely express myself, and I don't have that much free time. The international version of my name is Chris.
I would say just do something. Like, just start picking up something. And like get like a sketchbook and draw it in it every day, like for an hour or something. Don't do anything crazy committed. Like, start small. Let it evolve naturally, right? Let your process evolve naturally, because you might have a busy schedule. If you try to do something all or nothing type of approach, you'll give up quickly and you won't draw for a while again, and you'll start feeling depressed and feel upset about your progress because you were doing so good and then you just had to stop because it was overwhelming. But the reality is, like, you don't really need to spend 17, 30, 40 hours a day getting good at something. If you only spent an hour a day, but you committed that hour to learning something or drawing something, practicing something, no matter what you did, you're going to get better at it, and you're going to start getting into it, and you're going to build a habit into it. And then maybe you'll spend more time when you have you'll find that you have another hour in your day, and you'll spend a little more time on that. And the more you do that, the better you'll feel, because you'll be doing something every day, even if it's only for an hour. You know? Even if it's only like once a week. Like, I'm trying to do streams, right? I'm only doing them like once or twice a week, and that's all I committed myself to do. And I've been able to do them consistently, you know? And it's been really good. You know, when I can do more, I'll do more. If I can't, I can't. You know, it's no pressure to do it like all the time, every time. And my point is that, like, that's because I'm taking my own advice. You know what I mean? So just don't feel overtly committed. Just feel like you're doing something. It can be something small, all right, but manageable. All right. I have a longer version of that answer, but since we're running out of time, maybe if you jump in the next stream, you could be one of the first answers or questions we take. But I would say just start small. Start small, like get a sketchbook or something, and just draw in it every day.
Go ahead, Michael.
No, I just said type.
All right, last question says, in your mentorships, could you talk about how much feedback you offer on student work, i.e. hands-on time going over their projects?
Yeah, so every student, I give them between 15 to 20 minutes if you're on the front end. And as the class goes, you start to get into 5, maybe 10 to 5 minutes. But I switch the order of the students often, so that way everybody relatively gets a pretty extensive criticism. Hands-on's pretty committed. I mean, once you're in class and I talk to you specifically, and give you specific homework assignments and give you specific agendas that are based off of what I think you can do to improve. My goals as an instructor in my classes is to leave you with as much information as you can have that will help you get better without me, right? Of course, there's people who take my classes even after I give them advice, because they still feel like being there talking to me is a pretty powerful thing. You know what I mean? But I feel like for me it's really good to try to get my students to work on their own well beyond the class, or even during the class. But yeah, My number one thing that I do, though, in my class is try to find your bad habits and eliminate them. Because really, the best way to get better is just to draw a lot and paint a lot, right? Just to do that alone, because it'll start to lead you to good answers and good questions if you do that. But what I do for my students is really help them see what those problems are directly and have them confront them, like straight up in the class. And then they're like, oh, okay, great, and then they usually improve during the class, and then I want them to improve even more after the class. So that's pretty much what you can expect.
Awesome.
Yeah, and I do
pretty much
painting
it.
demos. I do painting
Pretty
demos.
much it.
Cool, man. All right, guys. Thanks for hanging out. John, Mike. Thanks for everyone else who saw this demo.
It's been fun.
Probably gonna send this to my buddy who's a writer. He's been doing this really cool stuff where he takes the image that I draw, and
Yeah, I
then
like that.
he writes up a really cool story, and I just post it.
Kick-ass job.
Yeah, it's cool. I like it. It's fun. Anyway, all right, guys. Peace out. Hope you guys enjoyed the stream. I'm gonna get out of here. Laters, y'all.
See ya.
What the? All right, now laters.